morning. Welcome to the Gal for Kids. This is our premiere show that we are getting to do. We would first like to thank our sponsors, which is Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater and Logan Street Signs and Banners. With me today and helping me get through our premiere show is attorney extraordinaire, Addie Wood.
Thank you.
You're welcome. She is part of the program that we're going to talk to you about. And we want you to know that here in Hamilton County, we have this wonderful program that not very many people know about. And that is why we are doing the show, to bring this information to the public, to the community, and to get the community more involved in what we do. So let's talk a little bit about what our program is. My name is Shelley Haymaker. I am the director of the Hamilton County GAL/CASA program. That's a lot of words, and we're going to explain to you what those words mean. So first of all, let's look at what a gal means. Besides us gals sitting here with you today, a lot of our gentlemen that are volunteers in our group get a little offended that they're gals, but they get over it. But a gal, for what we do, it's called a guardian ad litem. A CASA, for what we do, is called a court-appointed special advocate. And in our world and working with the court system, those words basically describe an advocate. And we advocate for mainly children in our court system, but we also advocate for adults as well, too. And in future shows, we'll talk about more of how we advocate for adults. But we wanted to start our first show with telling you about how we advocate for children here in Hamilton County. And what our program is about, our program trains people from the community to be the voice of the child, and it's for a child who's come into our court system through no fault of their own. They've come through for allegations of abuse or neglect, whether that's by a parent, a caregiver, a guardian, anybody, and they have a case that is opened up in our court system here in Hamilton County. And when that case gets opened up, then one of us has to come along and get assigned to go in and advocate for the child's best interest. So that's what we do. That's what our mission is. That's what we are about here in this program. And this concept of having an advocate for children, it was born a long time ago by a judge in another state, far out in the state of Washington. And he was looking out in his courtroom while a case was going on, and he saw that the parents had an attorney, the state had an attorney, but there was nobody there advocating specifically just for the child. So he wasn't hearing the child's voice, he wasn't hearing about the child, he wasn't hearing about what the child wanted. And so he decided he wanted somebody from the community to come in and meet this child and go in and look at this child and come back to court and give him some information, because he could not go out and meet the child. So he wanted somebody from the community to be able to do this, and he wanted somebody from the community to go find out, where does the child live, where does the child go to school, what's the child's bedroom look like, what's their house look like, how is the child fed and dressed? Does the child have medical or behavioral issues that are not being addressed by the parents or the caregivers? And what can we do in our community to help this child? So that was the concept that he came up with. And a court-appointed special advocate began back at that time. And since then, we've had name changes. We've had some names added, and so a gal got added as well, a guardian ad litem. And that's why those terms, we use both of those in our court system today to mean advocates. And so there are several types of these programs throughout the state of Indiana, and through every state, as a matter of fact. In Hamilton County, our specific program is what we call a court-ran program. And what that means is the funding for what we do comes from the local tax base here in Hamilton County. And that also means that the judges here in Hamilton County are very hands-on with the program, and they oversee the program and oversee me as the director and oversee what goes on within our program. I think that here in Hamilton County, what I like and what I think makes us more unique than some counties that have these programs is that for every volunteer from the community that comes in and helps us with this program, you are represented by an attorney. So that's where Miss Wood comes into play. She is one of the attorneys that works through our program that would represent you if you came through and took our training and became a child advocate. She would be one of the attorneys that would be working with you on a case. So let's ask her a few things. See how well she knows her job. Right, Miss Wood? So when you get assigned a case and a volunteer, what are some of the things that you do for that volunteer?
What I do, I will get the caseworker for DCS, get their name, get the information to the volunteer.
And hold on. DCS, Department of Child Services.
Yes.
All right, go on.
Thank you. And help get them going, and we'll help along the way with questions they have. Then they write a report. I help with their report, and then I represent them in court. I'm with them in the courtroom, so they aren't there alone.
Okay, so the information she just gave then opens a lot of information that you need. The cases that are brought into our court system through allegations of abuse and neglect are brought in through the Department of Child Services. So back when I started 20 years ago as a lawyer, 20 years ago, that's a long time, 20 years ago as a lawyer, then I referred to it as the welfare system. And then over the last 20 years, that has changed, and now they are the Department of Child Services. So they would be involved in a case, and especially of abuse and neglect, and they have caseworkers at their place that work cases as well. So when Ms. Wood was talking about, she would get the volunteer you in connection with the caseworker at DCS. That's what she's talking about, because we have somebody there that we would be working with who knows the case, who knows why the child may have been removed from the home, who knows where the child is the child in foster care, is the child with a relative, where is this child out in the community. So I think that that's important for them to know, that they would be working with the Department of Child Services. And then she also said you would be writing a report. And we're not going to go into a lot of that today, because we don't want to scare you on our very first show. We want you to come back and join us and learn more about what we do. So we will talk about report writing, I think, down the road. It'll be one of those times when we have a show, and we'll talk about that. But when you become a volunteer, that is important, because everything that you do gets put into a report so it can be reviewed. So real quick before we go to break, my name again is Shelley Haymaker. You can contact me at my office if you're interested in becoming a volunteer at 317-776-0480. You can also contact me by email at attyshell@att.net. And I believe my address and telephone number are at the bottom of the screen as well. So if you have any interest, that's how you get a hold of us, and we will be back after break.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back to the premiere show of The Gal for Kids. And again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater, where we are taping the show today, and Logan Street Signs and Banners. And they've been kind enough to ask us to come in and have a show and to bring to the community what we do here in Hamilton County, because we know a lot of you have no idea that we're out there and what we do. So that's the beauty of this program, is we're going to educate you. We are going to be on once a month. We will be, I believe it's the third Tuesday of each month at 11 a.m., and you can watch us live at that time. So that is a wonderful opportunity, and we very much are appreciative for this opportunity to be able to bring this information to our community here in Hamilton County. So before the break, we were talking a little bit about what kinds of things that we do and why we would want volunteers from our community to get involved. And one of the things that you have to understand for our program is that for kids to be in our program, there has to be an open case at the courthouse. So I have a lot of phone calls from people from the community, and they say, hey, my grandchild needs a guardian ad litem, how do I get one? And if there's not a case that's opened up at the courthouse for that child, we are not the right program for them. There are other programs out in Hamilton County that would be available to come in and mentor or tutor or help with that child, but that would not be what our program does, because we only get involved with the court cases. So Addie's going to talk to you a little bit. Addie Wood is one of our attorneys here in the program. She is on contract with our program to represent you. So anytime that you go through our training and you decide you want to become an advocate, then you have legal representation available to you. We are there for every single case. So it's not just available to you, it's there with you, regardless if you want us or not. We're there with you. So Addie is going to talk to you a little bit about our statistics and what we have going on right now with this program.
Absolutely. So we're always needing volunteers. In 2015, we started the year with 134 children who had open court cases, and we continue to advocate for them.
And those children, that number is just for the abuse and neglected children. We have a lot more cases than that in our program, and in future shows we'll talk about what other cases that we handle, but that 134 children that was carried over into this year are just the abuse and neglect children.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Take it from
Thank
there.
you. And so far during 2015, the program has advocated for 85 new children who've come into the court system. So the unfortunate reality is we have a lot of children who need an advocate, and currently we have 16 on our waiting list who desperately need an advocate. So we always need volunteers. And we're fortunate, we have great volunteers, and currently we have 38.
And we just finished training.
Yes.
So we just finished one of our 32-hour training sessions, and we received new volunteers. So shout out to the new volunteers out there.
You.
Some of them had even watched some of our shows before when we were on Jennifer to the Rescue, and that's how we got started here. So they kind of got to see a little bit, a preview before going into training of what we were. And I just want to talk about the wait list before you go on talking about volunteers, but these children that are on a wait list, and what does that exactly mean? That means that they still have an open court case. They might be out of their home, they might be in foster placement, they might be with a relative placement, they may even be at home on a trial home visit to see how that works for them. But their case is still going on, even though we don't have an advocate through our program that goes out and is able to meet with them and see them and advocate for them. So our children on our wait list, we make sure that they are still at least being monitored. We make sure that they are still being advocated for. If we don't have a volunteer from our community to do that, then Addie, and we also have another attorney, Dana Larbus. She was on our show earlier this year when we were on Jennifer to the Rescue. She came on and talked. Mm-hmm. But Dana and Addie are the two attorneys that represent volunteers in abuse and neglect cases that we're talking about today. And so these kids that are on a wait list, because their case is still going on and we can't just wait for a volunteer to hold up the case, then Addie and Dana make sure that they are still monitoring those cases. So what does that mean for you, Addie, when we don't have somebody from the community to volunteer?
So monitoring it, we're checking in on the child, making sure they are safe and they're getting the services that they need. So they're not falling through the cracks, but having a volunteer is extremely important because our goal is when the case opens, the volunteer that's on it from the beginning is the one who's on it towards the end, at the end. And volunteers are great, but we understand life happens, and sometimes the volunteer can't finish it out.
Yeah, we can't keep you.
Yeah.
If you're a volunteer, you're a volunteer, and I guess you get to leave when you so choose, but that's the hard part.
Yes, yes. So, throughout the case, the child might have different Department of Child Service case managers, attorneys, different people in their life, but our goal is to really make sure that their advocate remains the same, because sometimes it's the only consistent person they have in their life from the very beginning to hopefully a successful end of the case, whatever that may be.
Right, and the advocate, which is what you would do if you go through the training, you're able to go see the child in their home. You're able to go see the child at school. You're able to talk to counselors and doctors about the child that you're advocating for. You're making sure that this child is getting the services that they need. You're making sure that this child is happy where they're at in their placement, safe. You're watching over to see what services the parents have been offered from the Department of Child Services, because usually something tragic has had to happen for this child to be removed from their home. So the tragedy is not usually with the child. That tragedy is usually with the parents. They've done something or haven't done something for the child. So they need some services and they need some assistance from our community. So the Department of Child Services comes along and provides them various services to help them. And so you as the advocate would kind of watch over that, see if the parents are getting those services, and see how that would impact your child. Because like Addie said, what we want is a successful, regardless of how hard that is to say, a successful end to the story. We want the parents to get the help that they need. We want these children back in their home with their parents when at all possible. That's typically the best thing for children. I know that's hard, I think,
yes,
for the advocates to understand, but I think when you go through our training and we talk about it, I think you have a little bit better understanding towards the end of why that is so important. So when we're going to go to break soon, and when we come back, we're going to quiz Miss Wood about some of her past and how she came to us and how lucky she was to get to our program.
Yes.
But before we go, just to remind you to, if you are interested in becoming a volunteer or finding out any type of information about what we do, then you can call my office at 317-776-0480. You can also send me an email at attyshell@att.net, and I think both of those are on the bottom of your screen. And again, my name is Shelley Haymaker. I'm an attorney here in Noblesville, but I'm also the director of the Guardian Ad Litem Gal CASA program. We'll see you after break.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back to the premiere show of the Gal for Kids. My name is Shelley Haymaker. I am the director of the Hamilton County Gal CASA program here. And we do want to thank our sponsors. We are so happy that they let us have a show and that we were able to bring this to the community. So Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater and Logan Street Signs and Banners, thank you very much for allowing us to be here and to bring this information to you. So we were talking about what it is that we do and how you can become involved, and it's a lot of information. It's more information than we can do in one show for you, so that's why we got to have our own monthly show, is so every month we can bring you new information about our program and how we do things. So before we went to break, we were talking a little bit about some of the things that a volunteer would do when they were assigned to a case. And Addie had a good point. She wants to make sure that you understand one thing.
Yes, understand. The judge is who ultimately makes the decision for the child. We are just offering recommendations. So we get volunteers who think, who am I to make these decisions? And I remind them, it's not us making the final decision. The judge ultimately does. We're just painting a picture for the judge so he or she can make the best decision possible that's in the best interest of the child.
Right. We have no power, people.
No,
all right? That's
really
what I tell people when we train. You have no power. You're just going out and you're able to meet people and see this child, and you're able to come back and give the judge a community-based understanding of what's going on with the child. You do not have to have any sort of special education to do this, to volunteer for our program. You do not have to be an attorney. You get one appointed for you. You don't have to play one. You don't have to have any kind of degree in psychology or child behavior or anything like that. All right, we have all sorts of volunteers. Can we
Yes.
think of some different people? I know we have a retired principal.
Yes.
We have people who work in
We have teachers.
teachers. We have people who work on computers. We have people who own an insurance company. So we have a wide variety of people that help in this program.
They
We
just
have-
need to have a heart for
Yeah,
children.
That's right. And they
That's
need
it.
to have the availability to be able to go out and see a child and be able to look into the child's life and be able to think. They need to have some common sense. We like anybody with common sense.
Yes, there we go.
They need to have common sense to be able to say, well, what would be good for this child, what would be good for this family, and what kind of recommendations can I make? We like people that can work with other agencies because we work very closely with our Department of Child Services. We are not part of the Department of Child Services, but we work very closely with the caseworkers there and on the case because they know where the child is and they know what services can be provided, so we have to be able to work with them and talk with them and communicate. So there's a lot that the volunteers do. Every time the volunteers go through training, they're always amazed. They're always overwhelmed with all the training because we train for about 3 weeks total, and we train several hours at night, and we give them all sorts of information in this 30-some plus hours that we train, and they are completely overwhelmed. But when they get their first case and they go start working it and they start advocating for this child and being able to bring this child's voice to the court, then they really see the impact of what we do and how important this kind of work is. So we want to do, now it's promised before we left, we were going to talk and we were going to quiz Miss Wood here before our show's done. So Addie, you've
Shelley.
been an attorney
Yes.
now for how long? It's not been very long.
No, it hasn't. Just about a year and a half now.
And what did you do before? Because you're not 19 or anything, so what did you do before that?
Before that, I sold insurance for our family agency as an independent insurance agent. And then in 2010, decided to go back to law school. And that's actually where I began being a guardian ad litem during law school. I knew was a passion of mine. And so there was a program in Marion County and got involved with them. And then the beginning of the year, they actually led me to our Hamilton County program and to Shelley, and have been extremely excited and love helping the children here in Hamilton County because we do have a great need for volunteers, and it's a fantastic program, one that's, in my opinion, one of the best in the state, because not all programs
We're humble
offers.
here in Hamilton
Yes.
County, just so you
Yes.
know, we're humble.
Yes. So not every program offers an attorney to represent the volunteer. So I
No.
think we are unique in that aspect, as well as just, we're great to work with.
Yeah, we
So-
are. We're pretty great to work with.
So quiz for you. How long have you been the director of the program?
I took over the program, I believe it was January of 2001. So I've been the director since then. And we have, when I took over, I laugh when I'm in training and I'm training these new advocates who have no idea what they're doing, no idea what our program is about, no idea what it is that they have signed up for. I tease them and say, well, neither did I when I took over the program in 2001. I really wasn't all that familiar with what a child in need of services case was. I was not all that familiar with the Department of Child Services. I was not all that familiar with what we do. So it's been a learning curve and a learning process over the years for me as well, to get here to today and to be able to tell you to come along and join us. So, for upcoming shows, because we are going to be on here, we're hoping they keep us longer than just this first show. So, assuming that they keep us and let us come back next month, we're going to do the show once a month. And I think for future shows, it would be kind of nice for you all to meet some of the various volunteers that we have in our program. Some of the volunteers do work full-time or have their own businesses, so they will be able to come here and tell you how can they work this program and work full-time. We have some of our volunteers who are retired. So one of the questions that we had the other night in training was, well, if I want to go to Florida for a month in the winter and get away from this godforsaken cold weather that we have here in Indiana, am I still able to be a volunteer? Yeah, I hate the cold. Okay, that's something you have to know. But can I still be able to volunteer and still be able to leave and have some times when I'm not around? So we're going to have volunteers come on the program and talk to you about that. So that
What's
you can,
the answer?
Yes, that
Okay.
they can.
I know, just
Well,
making sure.
I was kind of going to hold that for a future show.
Oh,
But,
well,
all right.
I don't want to turn people away.
I would like to have certain people from our community who provide some of the services that we deal with out here. I would like to have some of them come on our show and talk about what services that they have to offer here in Hamilton County and if they get involved with one of these families. I would love to see, and I'm hoping to find, some young adults who, when they were younger and under 18, they had a guardian ad litem or a CASA help them with their case. So we would love to have one of those come on our show and talk about that. What other types of advocacy we do through the court system, we will be covering that as the months come along. And we always cover how you can become involved. So because we just finished up our training for the remaining of this year, our next training will not be offered until 2016. But you can always become involved. You can always get me your name. You can always let me know that you have an interest. So before we close, my name is Shelley Haymaker. You can contact me at the email address at the bottom of your screen or at phone number 317-776-0480. We hope you enjoyed the premiere show of The Gal for Kids, and thank you for letting us bring this information to you. Till next time.